In 2021, Rihanna was in London, working on what fans hoped would be her long-awaited comeback album. Her team had booked her into an ultra-private recording studio on the outskirts of town, an old converted theater that had been transformed into a boutique creative space. Soundproofed, minimalist, candlelit, perfect for long, focused sessions. The studio had several recording rooms, but the one Rihanna was placed in was known as the Blue Room. No windows, deep navy walls, a single red bulb above the mixing board for ambiance. It had a reputation among sound engineers for producing clean, crisp vocal recordings. But oddly enough, artists rarely requested it more than once. She was there for a 3-night session, working late, usually well past midnight. The first night, things felt off. Rihanna's engineer, Corey, noticed that her vocals had a strange reverb on playback, not from the mic or the effects. It sounded like another voice underneath hers, barely audible, a kind of murmur that wasn't there live, only on the recordings. They rewound the track a dozen times. She even joked, "That better not be one of y'all ghosts trying to steal my album credits." They laughed it off and continued. The second night, the lights flickered during a session. The red bulb overhead blinked twice, and then went out completely for about 5 seconds. Everything else stayed on. No power loss, no breaker trip, just that one light. She shrugged it off and kept singing. When Corey reviewed the recordings later that night, he found something that shook him. On one of the vocal takes, there was a whisper before she began singing. No one was talking. It was barely a breath. But it clearly said, "She shouldn't be here." He didn't tell Rihanna. Not yet. The third night, they entered the Blue Room around 11:15 p.m. Rihanna immediately said something felt wrong. "It's colder tonight," she said, rubbing her arms, even though the thermostat hadn't changed. Halfway through the session, she asked to take a break. Corey went to grab coffee, leaving her alone in the booth with the mic still hot. She was scrolling through her phone when she suddenly froze. In the reflection of the blacked-out window in front of her, she saw a woman standing behind her. Pale, long, dark hair, wearing what looked like a gown. Rihanna whipped around. No one there? She bolted out of the booth and into the hallway where Corey was just returning. He saw the panic on her face. "There was someone in there," she whispered, trembling. "I saw her." Corey ran back to check the security feed. Here's the catch. No footage existed from the Blue Room that night. All other studio feeds were intact. The Blue Room's feed cut out at 11:13 p.m. and didn't resume until 2:06 a.m. It was as if someone or something deleted the footage. They never went back. Rihanna refused to work in the Blue Room again. She continued the album at a different studio across town, and though she never spoke about the incident publicly, someone on her team leaked what happened. That engineer, Corey, reportedly left the music industry not long after. And that studio? It quietly removed the Blue Room from public booking. Now, it's sealed off. But sometimes, during late sessions in nearby rooms, engineers still say they hear faint humming, like someone trying to sing. In early 2019, Rihanna flew into Vienna, Austria, for a last-minute appearance at a private fashion event hosted by a European luxury brand. The trip was rushed, confidential, and extremely high-end. Instead of staying at a typical hotel, the organizers put her in a historic boutique hotel that had recently reopened after renovations. The hotel was known for its charm, but also for its unusual past. Built in the 1800s, it had once been a sanitarium for the mentally ill. The owners rarely mentioned this in the brochures. Rihanna arrived late at night with 2 bodyguards and her assistant, Mel. The staff were polite but tense, and her suite, room 426, was unusually old-fashioned compared to the rest of the hotel. Large velvet drapes, vintage furniture, and a massive gilded mirror opposite the bed. It looked antique, cracked slightly at the top right corner. Mel asked if they could cover it, but the hotel refused, saying it was a protected antique and couldn't be touched. Rihanna, tired from the flight, went to bed without a second thought. That night, something strange happened. Around 3:17 a.m., she was jolted awake by the sound of footsteps on carpet, slow and deliberate, coming from the far corner of the suite. She sat up quickly, thinking someone had entered. Nothing. The lights were off, but she could see her reflection faintly in the mirror across the room. Only, she noticed something off. In the mirror, she wasn't alone. There was a figure standing directly behind her reflection, but when she turned around, no one was there. Just empty space. She stared back at the mirror. Now the figure was gone. She chalked it up to exhaustion and jet lag and tried to sleep again, this time leaving the bathroom light on. The next day, Mel asked her if she had slept okay. Rihanna didn't bring up the figure, but Mel said something odd. "Did you hear someone whispering in the hallway last night? I could swear I heard someone outside our door saying your name." Rihanna paused. She hadn't told Mel about the figure. She started feeling uneasy. That night, around 2:40 a.m., Rihanna woke up again, this time gasping. She had dreamed of a woman in an old hospital gown, standing at the foot of her bed, silently mouthing words Rihanna couldn't understand. But she remembered the face, sunken eyes, gray skin, and that crack in her forehead, right where the mirror was cracked. She stood up, grabbed a towel, and finally covered the mirror. She didn't sleep for the rest of the night. On the 3rd day, Rihanna checked out early, canceling the rest of her booking. Mel later told a stylist friend that Rihanna left a note in the suite, written on hotel stationery, that simply said, "That mirror should have stayed in the hospital." A few months later, a French model staying in the same suite reportedly jumped from the window, claiming she had to escape the mirror woman. The hotel never commented, but room 426 no longer appears on the online booking system. To this day, Rihanna has refused to stay at any hotel that features large antique mirrors facing the bed. In 2016, Rihanna was staying in a secluded recording estate in upstate New York, a private retreat used by elite artists to work away from paparazzi and distractions. The place had history. It was a converted 1930s mansion, previously owned by a composer who allegedly went mad and vanished in 1971, never to be found. The retreat was known for having incredible acoustics, especially in the downstairs studio, which still had the original soundproof walls and vintage recording gear. Rihanna had taken a short break from touring and was staying there alone with her audio engineer, Marcus, and a single bodyguard. They were planning to lay down vocals for a dark, unreleased track she'd written herself, a slow, haunting song about nightmares and isolation. The track was called No One Here But Me. The first few nights were quiet, but strange things started happening once they began recording vocals in the basement studio. Every time Rihanna sang a certain line, "Leave the lights on, I know you're watching," the waveform on the recording software would spike, even if she sang softly. Marcus tried adjusting levels, assuming it was just a tech issue. But the spike always happened only on that line. Then, they started hearing clicks in the headphones, faint, rhythmic sounds, like an old metronome ticking, even though the click track was off. Rihanna paused mid-recording one night and asked Marcus, "Why does it sound like someone else is breathing on this?" He replayed the track. There was a whisper underneath her vocals, not words, just heavy, dragging breathing, like someone with a damaged lung. Then, suddenly, a soft voice muttered behind the last line, "No one here but me." They both froze. It wasn't her voice, and she hadn't spoken after the line. They assumed it was a file glitch or interference. But the next night, things got worse. Marcus left the booth for a moment to fix a cable. Rihanna sat in the dim studio, mic still hot, headphones on. That's when she heard footsteps, slow, creaking ones, pacing just outside the sound booth. She thought Marcus had returned, but when she looked out through the window, there was no one there. She took off the headphones. The footsteps stopped. Then she turned, and for half a second, she saw someone standing behind her in the studio reflection. Tall, thin, wearing something dark. But when she spun around, no one was there. She left the room shaking. Marcus came back and said he'd only been gone a minute. They both agreed to delete the track and finish the project elsewhere. Later that night, Marcus tried exporting the files to his backup drive, but the folder named No One Here But Me wouldn't delete. Instead, when he clicked it, all the files had been renamed to the same thing. "I'm not alone." He shut off the drive and locked the door to the studio. Rihanna never officially commented on the session, and the track was never released. But Marcus, in a rare interview later, said something strange. There's a reason she doesn't sing about ghosts or paranoia anymore. That place gave her something to take home, and she doesn't want it back. To this day, the retreat no longer offers the downstairs studio to guests. It's permanently closed, and the door is locked with a sign that simply reads, "Do not enter, recording in progress." But no one is ever inside.